Hey guys, this is Mr. Latours. We're over here at the Mount Juliet Library. And if you recall, the last time we huddled up together and we were talking about the causes of the American Revolution. And by far and away, the most important cause of the American Revolution was denial of the profit motive. The profit motive was the thing that was used by England to encourage people to come to the New World. If you take away that desire, the ability of those people to make money, people are going to turn around and say, I'm not going to take a chance on doing that. So once you start denying people the ability to make money, or once you deny them the profit motive, that's really going to make it a lot harder for people to want to come to the New World. For example, one of the promises about coming to the New World was the ability to get free land, or at the very least, cheap land. Take a look at that map over there. After the French and Indian War, all the areas that you see over there in red or pink are areas that are going to be open to the American colonists. The colonists are turning around and saying, man, this is great. Look at all that land. We can get that. But then England turns around and slaps something called the Proclamation of 1763 on them. Proclamation of 1763, what it does is it establishes that line that you see over there in green along the Appalachian Mountains, and it tells the American colonists you can't go settling beyond that land over there. Well, the colonists are over saying, hey, wait a second. We were told we could go anywhere we wanted after the French and Indian War, and now you're creating a line. You're infringing upon our ability to make money. Therefore, you are denying us the profit motive, okay? This is going to be the first in a series of laws that are really going to tick off the Americans, and all their anger is going to be focused upon one common enemy, and that enemy is going to be King George III. But King George III is going to turn around and tell them, hey guys, remember the French and Indian War? It cost us a lot of money to defend you. Now we need a couple of bucks back in order to make up the money that we lost in fighting the French and Indian War. That's what his logic was. And to be fair to King George III, it wasn't just King George III, but rather it was the whole entire Parliament. They passed the laws along with King George III. And to be painfully fair to King George III, a lot of this stuff was happening without King George III knowing what was going on. What do you mean? He's the king. How can he not know what's going on? King George III is going to spend a lot of time in his life in a mental institution. He's going to suffer from a form of arsenic poisoning that's going to do all sorts of damage to his brain. For example, during a good part of the American Revolution, about 1 full year, he would spend that year wrapped up in a straitjacket chained to a wall, okay? So in all fairness, it wasn't just King George III. Now, we're just going to take a look at a couple of the key acts, the first of which is going to be the Sugar Act. Now, the Sugar Act is going to be the first direct tax on any goods that are going to be used by Americans. In reality, it's kind of a quirky little thing. What they did with the Sugar Act is that they actually lowered the tax on sugar as opposed to what it used to be. But they also said, yeah, we're going to lower this tax, but we're going to make sure that we really enforce this tax, because previously it had been enforced very, very loosely. We're lowering it, but now we're going to make sure that everybody is going to pay this sugar tax. Sugar is a key ingredient in the manufacturing of rum, and rum is a key part of the system of triangular trade that you see over there on the screen. And what this is going to do is, by use of rum, by use of sugar, they are going to allow a system of trade that's going to send rum over to Africa. In return, we're going to get slaves, which are going to go to the Caribbean islands. We're going to pick up sugar. That sugar is going to go back to America. We're going to transform that sugar into rum, and round and round and round it goes. Now, the deal is, part of the reason why they were able to get away with the Sugar Act is whether you're a rum runner or whether you're a slaver. Neither one of those occupations were held in very high esteem. So for the most part, the Sugar Act was just simply tolerated. But in 1765 comes the Stamp Act. The Stamp Act is going to be a tax on all legal documents, whether it be a newspaper, playing cards, any contracts, anything that has paper has to have a stamp on it. Now, unlike the Sugar Act, which only impacted the rum runners and the slavers, this particular law is going to impact virtually everybody in the United States, people who were held in much higher esteem than those who were affected by the Sugar Act. What this does, this tax on stamps, is it's going to really tick off the American colonists. So much so that what they're going to do is they're going to get together and they're going to create something called the Stamp Act Congress in 1765. The Stamp Act Congress is going to do three things that are going to be critically important in American history. First, it's going to force England to repeal the Stamp Act. Now, the colonists are turning around and they're looking at each other. Hey, dude, look at that. We got England to take their tax away. Wow. This leads to the second thing. It demonstrated to the colonists how much power they really have when they act in concert with one another. In unity, there is strength, is the attitude that they're learning from the Stamp Act Congress. And the third thing is it's going to demonstrate the power of a boycott. What happened is the American colonists, as a result of the Stamp Act Congress, decided that we were going to boycott any goods coming into the colonies from England. This is a tremendous economic power, so much so that England is eventually going to have to give in and repeal the Stamp Act. So that Stamp Act and the results of the Stamp Act are critically important. Okay, guys, now let's go bopping over to 1773 and the creation of the Tea Act. Now, the Tea Act is going to be a tax on all tea coming into the United States, with the exception of the tea that's coming in from the East India Tea Company. The East India Tea Company is subsidized by the English government, so it's in their best interest to make sure that Americans are going to buy tea from the East India Tea Company, because that's going to generate more money for the English government. Now, you've got to realize the impact that we're talking about with tea. Here in the United States, everybody, especially me, drinks coffee, okay? However, during the time of colonial America, the same way that we drink coffee now, that's the way that they drank tea over there. So a tax on tea was something that was really very, very important. So a tax on tea is not going to make the American colonists be very happy campers. So they are so angry over that what they're going to do is they're going to demonstrate a very unique kind of protest. They go sneaking into the Boston Harbor and they're going to take about $1 million worth of tea and they're going to dump it into the Boston Harbor. This, of course, is what we call the Boston Tea Party. King George III just goes absolutely crackers over this. Are you kidding me? And he has a quote that really summarized it best. The die is now cast. Either the colonists must submit or they've got to triumph. There's simply no two ways about it. Either the colonists are going to win and they're going to get away scot-free, or they're going to lose and King George III is going to step on them. Now, to be fair, you've got to understand that King George III himself didn't quite understand the anger of the colonists. Aside from the mental instability we were talking about before, you've got to realize that communications between the colonies and England could be anywhere from 3 to 6 months. So what's going to happen is, if the colonists are upset about something that the king is doing, they're going to write a letter of protest. They're going to put it on board a ship, and that ship is going to go over there to England. That might take 3 months for that ship to go from America to England, then another 3 months for that to come back over here. Are you kidding me? Imagine having an argument with your best friend and you say something in March and you don't get a response until June. That's what it was like back during that time. And again, the Tea Act, in reality, what the English government thought that it was a good thing. They had something called the Townshend Acts in 1767, which placed a tax on just about everything. And because the colonists were upset over that, the English government repeals the Townshend Acts, all of the taxes, with the exception of the tax that was being done on tea itself. Well, anyway, guys, all this stuff leads to various denials of the profit motive. So much so that finally, July 4th, 1776, the United States, what we're going to call ourselves after the Declaration of Independence, is going to issue said Declaration of Independence. Truthfully, at this point, I'm reminded of Alice in Wonderland. Think of the colonists as being like Alice, who's about to jump down that rabbit hole. She's not certain what's down into that rabbit hole, but bloop, bloop, there she goes, and bloop, bloop, there go the colonists. We are declaring war on England, the greatest power on the face of planet Earth. What's going to happen when the colonists actually jump into that rabbit hole? Got to tune in next week and find out, guys. Part 3 of the American Revolution. Take care, guys.